Welcome back. Hopefully you're feeling refreshed after being fed and watered. It was a very enjoyable lunch. I enjoyed it anyway. My name is Stephen Stokes and I'll be facilitating this session. Now in the facilitator's notes it says that the host should be lively and cheerful. So if you see anybody who looks lively and cheerful, please send them this way. Other than that, you're stuck with me for the next hour and a half or so. It's a pleasure to be asked to be involved today, particularly here at the Liberty Stadium, which is my second home, and somewhere where the Championship is the new Premiership, because the Premier League is just there last season. It's also where the Ospreys rugby team have made the decision to play badly to allow other teams an opportunity to win some things. At least that's what I've been telling myself for the past several years. Anyway, back to the reason we're here this afternoon. This morning we heard from the panel who gave their views on the circular economy and threw into the room some provocations to think about. Following on from that, this workshop is designed to focus on how this can work in practice. The question is, how can we implement the guiding principles of the circular economy to improve the economic, environmental, social and cultural value? Now we want this workshop to be as interactive and as inclusive as possible. It's a safe environment where we can discuss, where we can learn from each other and where we can generate ideas. And it's also important to point out that all of your thoughts and ideas will have a life beyond today's event. Today's discussions won't just disappear into thin air, as well as hopefully inspiring you and your organisation. The information will be captured along with the key takeaway points, and this will inform future correspondence and events under the For the Region banner. With that in mind, we've been supplied with a board just in front of the stage and some post-it notes and pens. Now what we'd like you to do is to note down up to 3 key points, insights, ideas or quotes that you may have picked up from the discussion this afternoon, and I'll give you a little bit of time to do that during the workshop. And once you've done that, you can pop the post-its on the board and they'll be captured by the team at For the Region. Now before I ask each of our panellists to expand on their contributions this morning, by a show of hands, how many of you knew about the circular economy before today's event? Good. I mean, I'm well impressed. Personally, it's something that I've only come to realise in probably in the last 12 months. And it's been an eye-opener here this morning to see the depth of information that came across and the ways in which we can all be a part of developing the circular economy. And when I say eye-opener, I'm not just talking about the visual of a golden pool on the screen, which is probably the first time I've ever seen it, and I would put good money on the fact it's probably the last time I'll ever see a golden pool on a screen in the Liberty Stadium. But thank you for that. It's an experience I'll never forget. So at this stage, I'd like to ask each of our speakers to spend 5 or 10 minutes expanding on this morning's session. Obviously, we've heard from Professor Evans, so it's now for our other panellists to discuss and convey their points. And I'd like to start with Frank Ashton, please.
Good afternoon everybody, and thank you for joining this workshop. I hope you'll find this interesting. I'm going to share some practical tips on the case study I alluded to this morning, which was to do with turbochargers. So another hands up please, all those who know what a turbocharger is. That's pretty good, there's a few that don't. So a turbocharger, generally speaking, gets you the maximum possible better efficiency out of your combustion engine. So on cars, it takes air and it rams it with the fuel into the cylinders so that you get a more complete combustion, thereby getting more miles per gallon, less emissions, and generally speaking, a better outcome for the planet. Now, some of you may know that turbochargers were ubiquitous on diesel engines. They're also pretty common now on petrol engines, and everything is being downsized. Some might say a turbocharger is a very green machine, depending on your view on hydrocarbons in the first place. So, turbocharger is my topic. I'm just going to give you a couple more insights about myself. What are we about? What am I about? Well, I would like to use the experience I've had from consultancy with PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, seeing many different companies in many different sectors, and also being a metallurgist, material scientist by trade, to say, yes, we do need to use less, we need to minimise waste, we need to maximise our resources. I'd like to make a dent. I'd like to make a dent with that knowledge and not just be on a one-to-one basis. The more people that have this knowledge, the more likely it is that they might act on it. So we love in Potential Change to see other people's success based on their setting good targets. That's a really good start in any project, anything you do for yourself. Really understand what you're trying to get out and what that target looks like. Understand it in ultimate detail, set really good milestones, and take several checks as to how you're doing. Be self-aware, be good to yourselves, as a friend would be. And if you apply that to yourself, to your team, to your organisation, and to your projects, that is a really good start. Many, many people don't do those things very well. And that is why you get cross with yourself if you try to do something that's an improvement and you get to the point where you give up. Keep going. Everyone is fallible. It's a very human condition. So keep going, keep getting back on that horse, as it were, and improving. What we tend to do is focus on this blue square for organisations, and they can be public sector, they can be private sector, but this blue square is really important. It's where the vertical for the organisation comes together with the horizontal for the staff. And simply put, we're wanting the organisation to bring the very best of itself, so that the physical place that you work, the colleagues around you, the processes that you see around you, the information that you use, the knowledge that you are aware of, how you share that knowledge, how you communicate, how you celebrate success, how you accept failure and improve from it. All those things create an environment and a culture that is really important for any organisation to get the most productive and engaged staff. That is the organisation's part of the deal. It's a partnership. And on the other dimension, you as the staff member, you as the individual, need to bring your best self. How many people in the world just turn up to work? How many people go, it's Monday, I can't wait till it's Friday, I can't wait till it's 5 o'clock, I can't wait till I can go home again, I'd rather not be here. Well, that just seems like a waste of really good potential, human potential, which is just as important as all the other things we're talking about in terms of resource. Take yourself seriously, start with yourself, work outwards, just as you would do with recycling and doing the right thing at home. So, straight to the chase. So we, when I was working at Cummins, were based in a factory and a site in Huddersfield. You may not know about Cummins. They are the largest independent diesel engine manufacturer in the world, and on these diesel engines they put turbochargers. All those turbochargers were designed in Huddersfield, and literally there are millions of them around the world, helping diesel engines be more fuel efficient and a little greener. The key thing about that is, as others have already said, it is very easy to focus on selling the turbocharger in the first place. But what happens to it when it breaks? What happens to it when the truck that it's on is sold to the next user? What happens when it breaks then? What happens when it's out of warranty and it needs to be replaced? What happens when the truck gets scrapped? And there's a number of implications for the world and the environment, and plenty of people have been saying this morning that it's the right thing to do to sit down at the very beginning and think about that right from the start. I'm just going to say flat out, that's really hard for large organisations to do because they're on train tracks. They're chasing, in this case it's a publicly quoted company, they're chasing quarterly results, they're chasing shareholder investment, and it's really hard to move from something that says we're going to sell this product to, for example, we're going to sell the service, the performance, because actually people don't necessarily crave a turbocharger. They just want to have their cars, their vehicles, their trucks go faster when they put their foot down, perhaps, or perform better and have less emissions. So if the turbocharger is a way to do it, fine, I'll buy that. If you provided me that service, that ability, just magically like that, you'd pay money for it. So this idea of taking a product and making a service out of it is one of the key things for the circular economy. It's actually a really key thing for this country. In simple terms, we are engineering and knowledge and skill based, and all that engineering effort is sometimes thrown away when a competitor, often from a low-cost country, will simply take the turbocharger apart and they'll copy every single piece in that turbocharger. And that's the expanded view of a turbocharger. They'll copy every single piece and they'll put it together and they'll say, this turbocharger that we've copied is as good as the one that the original manufacturer created. It's just not true, for a number of reasons. I shan't go into them. And then they sell that turbocharger for maybe half the price, but actually it lasts a third of the time. Think of the impact on the world's resources. These castings are heavy. Cast iron, there's aluminium, there's some actually very exotic high temperature materials in here. And they will copy all those materials as close as they can get, and they'll claim that the performance is the same because they basically copied the whole thing. It doesn't work like that. And it will not last in terms of durability as long as the original equipment manufacturer's turbocharger. It also, whilst it's running, will not give you the same performance. So you will have more emissions, pound for pound, if you like, compared to the best turbocharger, and you'll have poorer performance in terms of fuel economy. That is not good. We will remain a fossil fuel-based organisation, world rather, for some time to come yet. Whilst that's happening, we should be as efficient as possible in using those fuels and think about the implications of copying, if you like, and cheaper alternatives. So what we did was work very hard to say, what can we do to actually sort this problem out? Well, one of the things in an engineering-based culture like we are is to sell the service, because then that backs what you are really good at, making a long-lasting product which has high performance and understanding how best to remanufacture that. So remanufacture, simply put, is when it comes to the end of its first life, it breaks for some reason. You can pull it apart, you can replace some worn parts, but you can create the situation where that product is working as efficiently and as effectively as when it was new. That is remanufacture, as opposed to refurbishment, which is you might replace a few bearings. So the key thing here is remanufacture is sort of stage one for products. If you start taking back the old product that's broken, remanufacturing it, and then selling it, yes, at a reduced price, then you allow people to access cheaper parts that are at the top end of their their performance levels. So these castings, the cast iron ones, can be reused up to 3 times. And that is fantastic, as opposed to creating 3 times the iron ore, if you like, extraction, melting that down, making 3 times of iron castings. You just use the one 3 times over. It creates skilled jobs. It's not easy to remanufacture items, and it does need engineering and it needs support. So it's not a question of just bashing it with a hammer and getting some things out of a box. The ASME performance I've explained gives you that extra miles per gallon compared to a cheaper alternative, and it gives you a better, greener outcome. The trouble with that, and these things in red, I'm sorry if you can't see them very well, getting those turbos back is hard, and yes, they do sometimes end up in landfill or just thrown in a big melting pot, and all those great metals get melted together, and they are much less valuable in that form than they were to us if you were going to remanufacture them. Finally, competitors simply go, well, that's all very well and good, Mr. Cummins, but actually our turbocharger is just as good, and we'll lie through our teeth because no one can catch us, no one can prove it, and it takes a long time to do that. So they actively exploit the cheap and the cheerful, and it hurts any company who have engineers who do the right thing and put engineering time and effort into making something durable and reliable. So the performance-based model, I did some work when at Cummins to try and work out how we might be able to take in the aftermarket. So, as I say, this truck with a turbocharger on it has now gone beyond its warrantable period. The turbocharger breaks. Do we sell them a turbocharger, or can we somehow rent them the turbocharger performance? Maybe it costs $2,000 to buy one. If you rented it out for, I don't know, $50 to $150 a month, and then said to them, if there's any problems with it, we'll come out with a 4-hour service interval and we'll get it sorted out for you. Do you think people would buy that? I think they probably would. The trouble is it transforms the way in which the money works for a company like Cummins. You've now got this issue where you were selling $2,000 worth of turbocharger on day one, and then you didn't see that for a long time, and now you're moving to spreading that sort of money over years. And people are performance-based. People are measured on revenues, so some people in the Cummins organisation will be going, where's my revenue gone? I can't carry on, I won't get any bonus this year. So this is a strategic play. This isn't just something you switch on, switch off. This goes right to the top of organisations where they have to think strategically, and that is difficult for people to do. It's hard for them to get their head around it in the first place. It's harder still for them to express the implications of that to the city or to Wall Street, because that will have an impact on the revenues for next year's performance and an impact on the performance of their colleagues in terms of their bonus. So you can see how this is an obvious thing to do, and it could be really easy to do, but actually some of these things are quite hard simply because it's a railroad situation for many large companies. If you're a small company, I'd really like to talk to you because I think that's a much easier proposition. Small companies selling things, there's a massive opportunity to think about how you might be able to provide a service, whether it is for literally things like M&E, the mechanicals and engineering aspects of buildings, how you automatically manage that, or it could be to do with refuse trucks. There are councils up and down the country who are getting much better performance because of their monitoring and sensing of not just driver right foot, if you like, but also the likelihood of failure of a particular valve or a particular filter needing cleaning, and they are remarkable performance changes because they're providing a service that allows that fleet owner to optimise their resource over a longer period of time. So a refuse truck that costs, say, £150,000 would have a 7-year life compared to a 3 to 5 year life, and over that period you move the miles per gallon from 3 miles per gallon to 5. Doesn't sound a lot. It's massive. It's a massive thing that we could be doing simply by providing information and a performance-based model as opposed to a simple sell-it model. Thank you.